Welcome to Stationeers. This is going to be a tutorial series covering starting a new world, going through the user interface, and then we're going to do some base building to get all of the basic survival needs covered. From there, you would be able to just upgrade your systems and continue your playthrough to keep expanding upon your base. So first, we're going to cover the worlds here. So we're going to go to New World. There are several to pick from. They are different challenge ratings. So like Vulcan is an extreme challenge, different settings, temperatures to deal with. Mostly to start out, I would recommend starting out on Moon or Mars. Mars has its own set of challenges with an atmosphere that's mostly carbon dioxide. For this series, we're going to go ahead and start on the Moon as it is the beginner friendly. It does have a little bit of gravity. The sun travels over the sky and it almost directly overhead. It's about 88 degrees. 20.3 minute days, and you do get mostly solar energy from this playthrough. You won't be able to expand upon wind energy as there's no atmosphere, which gives us some advantages in a way, not having to deal with atmosphere. So let's start out on the Moon. Going through some of the difficulty ratings, we've got creative, easy, normal, and stationeers. These definitely can change your playthrough experience. With normal is what we're going to go ahead and use in this tutorial. As you can see with easy, your metabolism and food decay are halved. Mining yield is ×2, lung damage is at 8%, and your offline metabolism is disabled. Offline metabolism only applies to players that join your game for online play. Normal, we've got eating and drinking through the helmet is disabled, so you do have to set up a breathable atmosphere to eat and drink, or you risk damaging your lungs in order to eat and drink. Metabolism's enabled, lung damage enabled, and then there is offline metabolism for the online play. Stationeers, as you can see, goes through and multiplies all of these rates, and that can really make things harder to survive. So today we're going to go ahead and start in normal. This is where I would recommend. So that way you have a normal experience and you get to encounter some of the difficulties of starting a space base on the Moon. The start conditions, there's two to pick from. You got your standard start and your brutal. Brutal, just like it says, bare minimum to survive. So you start out with very minimal supplies to get started as far as setting up your power and production and some food. Standard start, we're going to get a lot more to start with. They actually give us an oxygen tank, water tank, some construction supplies. It comes with some necessary components to set up your base and get walls in an enclosed space. Electrical supplies to get your power needs covered. An airlock to set up for that enclosed space where we can set up some breathable atmosphere. Survival supplies is several of your just normal survival needs. Water, food bars, you got a portable scrubber for getting toxins out of your atmosphere. Hydroponics is going to cover a lot of our gardening and growing needs to get started off the bat. So we'll go through each of these to set up, and it'll give you a good start on the getting a base started, and then you can expand upon that. You also do get a water bottle bag and a cereal bar bag within your lander. So don't forget to grab these, and we'll make sure we grab those as well. And we got a fuel tank to start, so we don't run out of fuel with our welder, which we'll be using a lot during the initial build. So let's get started on the Moon tutorial here. We're going to standard start and start the game. So at this point, we are dropping in. You'll see we're dropping in on a drop pod. We got to wait for it to land and launch the canopy here. All right, so this is where we start out. So we'll push W to get out of the lander. We're going to go ahead and push 4 to open our backpack. And let's get the food and water out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that. We don't have the inventory space to keep these here, but we do want to grab them for right now. So to cover the interface here, so you're going to have your helmet. This is where you can unlock your helmet and open it. Obviously, we want to keep it closed. You can see it in the bottom right corner, it's closed. You can turn your lights on and off with this here, or you can just push L on the keyboard. You can flush your helmet, so if you get toxins in your spacesuit, you can flush your helmet to get those toxins out, and then gives you time to figure out what's causing those. I'm going to push F2 to close the tutorial missions for right now. So then we go into our EVA suit. Here's where you can adjust your pressures up and down. That's going to be indicated over on the right side here for your target pressure is 101. I do recommend dropping this. I usually put it around the 85 range. That just saves a little bit of power on your suit. The temperature, you can adjust that. Again, displayed over here, target temperature is 20. I'm going to adjust this down roughly about 17. Just to save a little bit of power. Makes your suit power last just slightly a bit longer. You can turn your filters, air and AC off within here as well. Obviously don't want to do that when we're using it here in space. Useful when you get into an atmosphere that's breathable and you take your suit off. You want to turn those off to conserve on the battery power. So it's not using battery power while you're not using your suit. So then we have our oxygen canister. You can see its numbers ticking down because we're breathing oxygen. This will go over on how to refill this. Your waste tank, that is going to be what you breathe out. So you're breathing in oxygen, out, breathing out CO2. So that CO2 is going to be stored in here. In the early days, you'll probably just vent this. So I can click on this and you can see I can open it here. So that's how you'll vent it to the vacuum for right now. At a later time, you'll want to vent this within your enclosed space so that you can grab that CO2 and use it for your plants. We got our life support battery. You just start out with a large battery in your suit. So it should last a good amount of time, but you can also use small batteries in an emergency need. We've got 3 filter spots here. CO2 is all 3. You start with CO2 filters. If you start getting breathable air that has nitrogen in it, you do need to put a nitrogen filter in here. So we'll go over that at a later time here. Moving on to the backpack. So this is your jetpack. You've got your propellant. This can really be any gas. You do start with nitrogen in there, but you can put any gas in there will allow you to use the jetpack. We got a pill to start. We got handheld tablet, several cartridges that can go into the tablet. So I can click on this and this will allow me to change the battery, put a cartridge in. As a note, I do have mouse mode active right now, as you can see. I'm just holding Alt in order to do that. So that's how you get into this mouse mode, to click and drag. So I can drag this over here. It switches places. Drag this over here, switch the places there. So we'll move on to your uniform. You typically start out with food and water in here. It's also where your credit card is with your credits. Not too much in here. Not a lot of actions you can take, just your uniform. And a tool belt, this is going to be your one you use the most. Then you can press 6. Obviously the numbers you can see here, 1 through 6. That's going to be how you access these without using the mouse mode. So we got wrench, a crowbar, hand drill, wire cutters, welding torch, screwdriver, and an angle grinder. And you do start out with a stack of cable coil, which will be useful for setting up our power needs. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over here. Keep that in our thing here in our backpack. Mining belt, we do start with one of those in here. If I open that up, you'll see we have a drill and a pickaxe. The mining drill will let you go and mine some minerals. You'll do a lot of mining to get your basic resources in this game. So then down here, we have our left hand and our right hand. So this game operates on not having a tool belt like many survival games, but you do just have your left hand and right hand, and then you've got to rely on your inventory space over here on the left. So we can push the tilde key to close all. So if you have, a bunch of things open, you got all this stuff open, you can just push tilde key and it'll close them all. Makes it real fast to close out all the windows. So I can push E on the keyboard. That will let me switch from which mouse or which hand I'm using. You can see R will open up the inventory of what's in your hand. So I can push R to open my portable solar panel here. T will let me place this. So rather than just dropping it, I can place it in a specific position. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right here. I can do the same thing if I switch hands. I can push T to place these flares in a specific position. So obviously it's nice. Now if I had this in my hand and I just push Q, then I could drop it. Or I can hold Q and I can throw it. And the longer you hold Q, the further it throws it. So empty hand here again. On the right side, we've got our vitals. You've got your hunger. Mine's down to 89%. You can see it's decreasing. Suitor helmet is on with my mood. So mood is increasing, hygiene's decreasing. All of that's displayed here in your vitals. We've got water that's dropping as well. So we'll go over on how to refill these. Critical in the first part of the game here to get started is going to be getting your water and food supplied. So you do need a breathable atmosphere since we have the setting of normal difficulty, which requires our helmet to be open. External pressure, we can see it's 0. There's no temperature since we're at vacuum currently. This is our compass heading. Currently we're facing 322. So I can face where the sun is going to set, and we're at 270. If we turn around to 90, that's going to be where our sun rises. So at 90, our sun should rise over at 90 there. We've got our speed at which we're running. You can see run typically around 3 meters per second. So interacting with things in the game here, we've got the fuel tank. We got drag. We can drag this. So I can go ahead and click this with an open hand, and it'll pick it up. So then I can carry it to where I want to place it. And then we can just push Q to drop it. Got our day displayed. As you play, your days will be displayed underneath here. You got your jetpack thrust is set to 0, and you've got how much pressure you've got left in your jetpack. We can push J to turn on that. The thrust goes up to 50. We can actually push spacebar to go up, and we can push Control to go down. And we can push J to turn that back off. Our thrust is set to 50 currently. We can go into the jetpack. We can actually turn our stabilizer on and off. So if I click this, that means I'm clicking it to turn the stabilizer off. So currently it was on. Now it is off, and it says that stabilizer on. This is to turn it on. So that's kind of how the interface works on this is you'll see what you're clicking on is what you're going to change the setting to. So currently it's off. So if I push J and I go up, it will not stabilize and keep me up in the air. Now if I turn this back on, now if I go up, it will keep me stabilized up in the air. You can also turn your thrust up and down. So if you want to turn your thrust way up, you're going to use your jetpack a lot quicker, but you'll be able to fly around a lot quicker than if it was at 50. Do want to be careful doing this. If you turn it up too high, you can fly too fast and you can kill yourself on impact. So do want to be careful if you're flying at the high rate of thrust. So turn that off. We're just in regular mode now. Space to jump. You got your typical WASD to move around, and then your mouse to look around. F2 opens our helper hints. F1 will actually open the Stationpedia, where then you can go in and you can look at guides. You can go in and look at all your different parts and things you can build. So I can go in structures. I can look at railing. We got flooring. You got walls. You got a lot of parts. So we'll go over getting these placed, starting a base building, and we'll go over all this stuff in the later videos here. I'm going to go ahead and close this. As you can see, the sun went behind the earth there, so we got a little moment of darkness here. All right, and that, I believe, covers starting a world. We're here on the moon, and we've covered all of the user interface aspects. So that will be the end of this first tutorial video. The next episode will cover getting a base set down. We'll use our frames, which we'll cover what all is in this lander here, and we'll go ahead and get frames put down, start building our base, and I'll go through some of the steps to get that started. And one of my best practices of what size and how to place things to get yourself set up for the best success in survival. Thank you for joining today in this tutorial, and we'll see you in the next tutorial where we'll start setting up our base.